Jaakko, we're going to a cool guy's house to drink some brewskis. Are you coming?
No, Ilmo. I'm very busy wearing a turtleneck and drinking wine. Like an asshole.
Oh dear, I know what Jaakko needs. Almamir to the rescue! Bring out your inner Wolverine with Almamir.
Wow, this is the best party ever. Thanks, Almamir.
Almamir is a traditional Finnish lager, and we drink it the Finnish way.
At the bar while actively avoiding small talk with strangers. Getting blackout drunk on a boat during midsummer and trying not to drown. In the sauna, using your beer can to hide your pippeli from wandering eyes. Partaking in the Finnish tradition of kalsarikännit, drinking at home alone in your underwear with no intentions of going out.
It's not sad if it's intentional.
Almamir, your Finnish drinking adventure starts here.
Welcome, lovely guests. Please make yourself comfortable in front of the beautiful blue light of this video. I'm so glad you're here. If you're interested in Alan Wake 2 or just want to discover something new, you've definitely come to the right place. In this video, I'll be sharing my thoughts and feelings about the game. I hope you'll find it exciting, inspiring, and maybe even discover something new. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss any exciting stories in the future. Let's start our discussion together. Alan Wake 2 has been out for quite some time now, and many people have already familiarized themselves with the basic concepts of this game, so let's skip the story of the game and move on to the topic of the video. If you take the piece apart sequentially, the entire game follows a serialist narrative that really suits it, but there's a lingering feeling that the story doesn't unfold until the end, leaving us hungry for more. The game's plot creates intriguing suspense, reminiscent of the opening of a thriller series. It lacks the complexity of narrative and elaboration to achieve the same effect. In a series, such moments do not need to be explained and may not reappear. They are used to creating suspense and tension. As the narrative progresses, these feelings and atmosphere of anxiety only grow and reach a certain peak. Though, it is quite easy to miss this immersion, to not bring it to the right point, which is what happens with this game. A slow-loading bush or accidentally getting stuck in a tree easily breaks the suspense at this point. And even if you do everything right, as the game intended, it all breaks down a little later, when the game slows down the pace of its narrative. It unwittingly slows down when traversing the vast expanses. The map is really huge and almost everywhere you need to move on foot. The distances between points of interest are vast, because of which the story lacks fully in a long time span. In addition, numerous collectibles take up story time. They are usually in different locations from the story, so you have to spend more time traveling between parts of the story. For the difficulty of collecting additional content, it's relative. It is difficult to collect additional content because they hide them and they are not easily found. Opening them in the improper order can easily result in missing parts. Getting parts of the story may not always be easy. In this respect, the game follows a fairly linear structure, and players can only gain parts of the story by following a certain trajectory. Yet, the game's open world allows for missing this trajectory. For instance, you cannot complete the story related to the cultists unless you speak to their leader, who is hiding somewhere in the police station. The level design of the first part appears standard for survival horror. At first, it may feel unfamiliar to those who played the first part of the series, but this feeling gradually dissipates. However, the design seems to have fallen into the trap of overly spacious locations and invisible walls. It's easy to get lost in this world where everything looks the same, and some locations seem like endless mazes where it's easy to get stuck trying to find your way out. Because of the second, it is difficult to escape the nooks and crannies that were unintentionally entered while searching for collectibles. The detective component seems promising and interesting at first, but, upon long-air exploration, turns out to be a decoration. This type of activity demands the player's full attention and thoughtfulness to identify case files and ultimately apprehend the culprit, as is the case in many detective games. Alan Wake 2 tries to present itself as a detective game, but the developers did not properly implement the mechanics. Game quickly abandoned the examination of evidence, and the player only engages in it for the first few minutes of the act. Infrequently, the questioning of witnesses occurs, happening only a few times per game. The detective board in the Mind Palace is not very clear in its purpose, as it is not interactive in the usual sense of detective performance. A classic example would be Sherlock. In that case, it is necessary to analyze the clues in the Mind Palace. The description of the clues is identical to what the player found, and conclusions must be drawn independently, just like when searching for clues. In this game, there is no need to search for clues as the heroine provides them herself. There is no need to analyze them either, as the heroine takes care of everything. The places for clues on the board are filled with mindless clues, and because of all the above, it's as if there's no need to follow the narrative, the heroine will do everything on her own. The protagonist collects cases, researches their key points, draws conclusions without player input, and solves the cases independently. And you may wonder, since the process is already in place, why should you be a part of it? But it's not that simple. The only task the protagonist cannot do alone is attach the clues to the board, which is where the plot thickens. Although the game is not a detective, it still suffers from the frequent problem of requiring a key clue to progress in the story. And when you have already lost interest in the detective part of the game and do not go into the Mind Palace, you may find yourself wandering around the location without any clear direction. The player may already know the answer to a simple logical riddle, but the protagonist does not, and it is because the player does not simply pin a piece of paper to the board. And you think.
Yeah, that's right. Fuck me.
Sometimes you look at her papers and think that there is something you don't need, because its description doesn't fit what is going on, you agonize. But in fact it is what you need, it's just called something else. There's also a script to watch in the Mind Palace, and it's presented straightforwardly. During the paranormal interrogation, the heroine instantly learns everything she needs to know, as if she were reading from a script. As a result, it feels like the Mind Palace is mainly necessary for the heroine to read the game's script and occasionally upgrade weapons. In the first part, gameplay is survival horror with Saga, where each step is a breath in the dark and every action is a sound in silence. Throughout the passage, you will encounter various collectibles on different topics. These include additional loot and tools for upgrading, each of which, like a puzzle, reveals its unique. There aren't many useful items in the game, except for the cold. Usually, there are plenty of items, but towards the end, almost nothing remains to collect. I found collecting them boring by the middle of the game, as they offer nothing useful or interesting. The inability to reload while dodging is a minor issue, but not essential. In this section, the weapons are presented as lighting accessories, including a standard torch and its batteries, flyers, a rocket launcher and its ammunition, as well as light noise grenades. The torch now requires constant charging with batteries or finding special perks, unlike in the previous game part where it charged periodically. In this part of the game, flyers and rocket launchers are unnecessary as there are few enemies, mostly bosses, and only a couple of them require such weapons. And also in types of firearms include standard pistols, sawed-off shotguns, pump-action shotguns, hunting rifles, and crossbow, along with their respective ammunition. When using a pistol, a large amount of ammunition is required to defeat a single enemy, as it is hits weakly. However, the map often provides scattered ammunition, so shortages are unlikely to occur. The sawed-off shotgun is effective at close range and is suitable for use against bosses. Ammo is average, sometimes it may not be enough for the whole fight. The pump shotgun deals with significant damage, but its slow reload time makes it challenging to use against fast bosses. It also takes up a lot of inventory space. The hunting rifle is a powerful and accurate weapon for long-range attacks. However, it is not suitable for close combat and takes up a lot of space in the inventory. The crossbow is an excellent weapon, capable of defeating regular enemies in a single shot and up to 6 shots during boss phases. It's pretty low on bolts and they're not exactly reusable. Sometimes you can pick up bolts from the floor after a fight, and sometimes you can't. Reloading is very slow, but it's worth it. Personally, I get through this part with just 3 weapons, a pistol, a rifle, and a crossbow, and I hardly needed any batteries. The main plot follows chapter by chapter, during which you have to defeat 4 bosses. Small enemies do not require damage, except for rare guards. However, interacting with some bosses raises some questions for me. The first boss frequently teleports near and immediately attack, making it difficult to retaliate. Dodging can also be challenging as it occurs suddenly and swiftly. The encounter is further complicated by the limited space and obstacles, as well as the ability of him to be free from collisions. You try adapting to these quirks quickly, as you may encounter similar bosses. The second bosses, the police brothers, act as one and differ significantly from the previous boss. They are polite, don't attack right away and provide opportunities for weapon reloading, even with the crossbow, which takes the longest time to charge in the game. Additionally, they supply ample ammunition between waves. As a result, their ease of completion can be highly disconcerting. The third boss can be challenging and requires a rational plan because of her multiple phases. During the first phase, she takes the least amount of damage, making it difficult to determine if damage is being dealt. While she may not attack much during the first stage, she can kill the heroine in one blow during the next phase. The battle required a significant number of illumination accessories and healers, which hasn't happened in a while. They were almost unnecessary in the last playthrough. As a result, the boss feels imbalanced and much more challenging than the others. The fourth boss, Scratch, is necessary to defeat twice. This fight is the same pattern to the first boss, but requires light source manipulation for the process of switching on the lights takes a considerable amount of time, during which the player must remain stationary. It may be necessary to use light noise grenades at the first encounter. During the last battle with this boss, the game features a concert with splendid music. However, the boss's difficulty can detract from this musical masterpiece. The second part, Metroidvania with Alan, is the best part of the game, despite its flaws. It has the least amount of bugs, as well as the most interesting story and successful elements of the game. Regarding the game series, some similarities to the first part are present, although the subsequent games differ significantly. The act shares similarities with other titles developed by the studio. When comparing the different parts of the series, there is a noticeable difference in atmosphere, which the game lacks. The first part of the series was more distinctive and innovative for the genre, whereas the second part is somewhat disappointing, particularly after the recent release of Control. There is also a distinction between color grading and the use of screamers, which are similar in appearance to the aforementioned game. The story density in this section of the game is also flawed, but to a much lesser extent. This happens, in my opinion, because of suboptimal level design. It is problematic in several ways. The locations are quite dark, making it challenging to balance light and shadow to achieve a distinct gray-black shade without a divine glow. While the style may suggest destruction and chaos, the combination with the problem described in the first part makes walking a tough test for many hours.
Music licensing reimagined.
Switching writer modes doesn't add to the ease either. While selecting different modes may close some passages and open others, it's difficult to determine which passages are affected, otherwise the chapter can take many days to complete. The process of rewriting the script can also be unclear, particularly when deciding where to go next. With so many options available, it's confusing to determine the best course of action. The game contains both invisible walls that prevent players from going to certain areas and walls that guide players to specific areas. However, these walls and confusing mazes can make gameplay more difficult and less exciting. The light puzzles are easy to pass and do not pose similar problems. In this section of the game, the echo largely drives the story, but it is also the most awkward element. It requires standing in a strictly designated place to view it, and if you move, you need start viewing it again. It's possible to miss some content, just like the first part. Searching many of the collectibles in this area is challenging because of their well-hidden nature, especially when compared to the previous area's collectibles. This difficulty is compounded by the level design. Words of power are easier to find than collectibles, yet they provide valuable assistance for the journey, despite their scarcity. The concept of weapons changes significantly in the second part. The inventory space is now limited, which restricts the number and size of weapons that can be carried. Typically, only 2 guns can be carried at a time, one for close combat and one for long range. Unlike the first part, a large quantity of lighting accessories is required in the second part, but unfortunately, they are a scarce resource on the map. The available firearms include a standard revolver, a sawed-off shotgun, and a double-barreled shotgun, along with their respective ammunition. Revolver functions similarly to its Saga counterpart, but with limited supplies on the map, it is crucial to keep track of the shots fired. The sawed-off shotgun operates similarly to the revolver. Double-barreled shotgun, while powerful and long-range, takes up a significant amount of pocket space and has limited ammunition. It is typically only available towards the end of the game. In this thrilling world, there are numerous enemies that often take the form of shadows. However, beneath their gloomy exterior lies a variety of terrifying characters and skills. The shadows from the previous installment are relatively rare and represent the easiest type of enemy. Others can teleport instantly and attack with lightning-fast strikes. These enemies are of medium difficulty, but if there are several of them, you will have to work hard. The most challenging shadows are those that constantly detonate something. This kills the hero with 1 to 2 explosions, and dodging their destructive rage is a real art. Death is waiting around every corner, creating incredible tension and adrenaline. The live-action scenes are well executed and gripping. They put on significant value to the game and could even stand alone as a TV series. However, although the game is magnificent, the impact of the main character's actions is not clear. This is a major flaw since the exciting story feels like passive observation, without any real player influence on the plot. Do our actions truly hold no significance, or are there profound mysteries yet to be revealed that will alter player role in this thrilling epic? The graphics of the game deserve a separate breakdown. It is indeed detailed and realistic enough, but also troublesome. When entering the game I had few problems with it, but progressively they increase, become more and more complicated, complex and affect the gameplay more and more. Pretty quickly from the beginning, we are introduced to the unique features of the game, and as we move on to the Mind Palace, the problems begin. These attributes are very heavy, and it is necessary to wait for a solid time by the standards of modern open-world games. This is still almost always insufficient, and we see the loading screen after the loading screen as well. Every element of this oversaturated room also tries to load, but this can be accompanied by a breakdown, after which only a reboot saves the day. Because of the heaviness of the textures, Alan's lofts have to wait a disastrously long time. Similarly, you need to be patient with the map, various texts, forest elements, etc. There are also frequent collisions. The relationship between characters and objects is not clear. They just fly away at the slightest touch, which is very disturbing, especially during combat, when these crates and boxes fly in front of your face and block the enemy. This occurs regardless of the size of the object, whether it is a large table or a small box. Passing through characters and larger objects can have severe consequences for the player. When passing through characters with other characters, the first character may begin to shake violently, making it difficult to battle, examine items, and move around. In some cases, the game may even crash. My intention here is to have a discussion about bugs, and specifically their occurrence in the game. Although they may not affect everyone, they have been a frequent issue in my experience. The bugs have occurred in various parts of the game, including the heroine's Mind Palace and the detective's board. Some of these bugs have been fatal, causing me to restart the game. The echo has also presented several problems. The picture is not playing, leaving you standing dumb against the wall, listening to distinct sounds. Subtitles become our salvation, as they know their text by heart. Bugs with the map in the second part are the most tangible. The echo has also presented several problems. The picture is not playing, leaving you standing dumb against the wall, listening to distinct sounds. Subtitles become our salvation, as they know their text by heart. Bugs with the map in the second part are the most tangible. Despite its many flaws, Alan Wake 2 is a thrilling adventure, but it's possible that some moments may not turn out the way you'd like them to. In the end, it all comes together to create an experience that is exhilarating, even if it takes a bit of puzzle solving and difficulty along the way to adventure. I hope this opinion was interesting, and maybe you'll share your thoughts on this game. It's all a matter of taste and preference after all. I'd be interested in reading it, and that's all for now. See you later.
Music licensing reimagined.